Welcome to Mac Voices. This is the Talk of the Mac Community. I'm Chuck Joyner, and the Talk of the Mac Community right now is Apple's Worldwide Developers Conference in San Francisco. We're here talking to some of the developers and some of our friends and people that are doing interesting things that you ought to know about. One of those is Mike from Gaucho Software. They do some weather applications. Mike, welcome. It's great to have you.
Well, thank you for having me here.
So tell us what Gaucho does and why we should be interested.
Well, I've been in business for a few years now. It's been 8 years. And I write weather applications for the Mac. My primary product is Seasonality Core for the Mac. And a few years ago, I came out with Seasonality Go for the iPad. And they're more targeted toward weather enthusiasts. It shows a little bit more detail than just the typical forecast. So they have weather graphs and more detailed maps than usual. So it's been a lot of fun developing for these platforms over the years, and it's been a great conference here so far.
Mike, I've got a couple of years on you, not many, but a couple. And I still remember when the Weather Channel came online, and everyone kind of thought, okay, is this has got to be the most convenient but the most boring thing in the world. And it really isn't. You said you develop apps for weather enthusiasts. I think we've all become weather enthusiasts because if you don't turn on one of the news channels, you turn on the Weather Channel to see what's going on.
Yes.
So what does Seasonality Core and Seasonality Go do?
Well, the basis, the reason I started developing them is back in the day, all these websites started popping up that showed weather information. And if you looked at the sites, you'd have a little bit of weather information in the middle of the page, and it would be surrounded by advertisements. And I thought, you know what, maybe I should write an app to just show the weather and get rid of all the ads. The tagline for Seasonality Core is actually all the weather, none of the nonsense.
Yeah, that's well said, because a lot of it has become nonsense. So what do you deliver to me? Do you deliver current forecasts or local forecasts? Do you deliver radar, the weather warnings, and obviously I have to put you on the spot and say, what makes yours different than some of the other weather apps out there?
Well, if talking just with Seasonality Core on the Mac, it really does show a full, like regular, typical 7-day forecast. It'll show your current conditions, radar and satellite, like other apps will. With Seasonality Core, what makes it unique is that it will save weather data for as long as it's running. And so it stores it, and you can go back and look at it on the graphs for years ago. You can say, hey, what was it like here last year? And or look at, hey, remember that heat wave a couple of years back? Like, when did that happen again? And kind of refer back. The other thing that it offers that not a lot of products do is it has a weather journal, and so customers can actually keep notes and logs about. I've had gardeners use it, say, hey, this is what the weather's been like, and so I had to water extra today, and so forth. As far as Seasonality Go, its big feature that it offers is full customization. And on the iPad, you can create your own weather screens and lay out the weather any way you like. And so that's kind of fun to do, and can make the product different for everybody.
Okay. So can this be pressed into service in a scientific arena, or is this more, like you said, for the enthusiast? And I'm not sure where the line is between the two.
It's not. I mean, it won't. Yeah, I mean the line between the two is fairly vague. What I've found is a lot of pilots and boaters and so forth will really find my products helpful because of the graphs. Actually, I mean they can look at what exactly the wind is doing and what the temperature's doing, and even in marine areas around the U.S. it has wave heights and so forth, and so. Definitely, customers in those areas find my products very helpful. I'm working on a new product called Seasonality Pro, And that's a little ways off still, but that will be targeted more toward meteorologists and showing really detailed information that you can't get anywhere else on the Mac platform yet.
Where do you get all the weather data? I mean, I know there are public databases available out there, but accessing them is a pain.
Yes. Weather data, it's always tricky. I mean, about a third of my work is on the server side. I have servers that will collect weather data from various sources and generate it in a format that Seasonality can use. One of my main sources, of course, is the National Weather Service. They have a lot of data for within the United States, and their web services are great. I usually get a lot of my radar imagery from them, but again, then on my own servers, I will match that radar data and composite it all together.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a really fluid experience for my customers. As far as international wise, I mean, there's no real solid source out there for international forecasts, and so I will actually download weather model data directly and create my own weather forecast on the server side, and that. So I really wanted customers within the U.S. or abroad to be, I mean, if they're traveling, to be able to look at the weather wherever they're going. And so that's kind of another differentiator. There's some products out there that are U.S. only, and I wanted to avoid that.
That's interesting. So you're not just putting a face on existing weather databases. You're actually bringing it in, manipulating it to your liking, and then feeding it back out.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's been a lot of fun. Before I got into Mac development, I worked as a web developer, doing database-backed websites, and so I had that experience there to be able to do the server-side processing and offer that, and it makes a really good combination with weather in particular.
So you're a Mac developer, web developer. Are you just a weather geek to start with?
Well, I was always kind of interested in the weather. It's actually kind of funny because when I was first developing Seasonality for the Mac, the intent with the product was to have an application that showed news, weather, and stocks. And I started working on the weather first. And 6 months later, I was like, "Hey, there's enough here to make this just a product on its own." So that's how Seasonality was born. It became just a weather app, and then since then, I've really I wanted to add more to it to kind of give it an edge. My wife is a faculty member at a university in town, and so I'm able to take courses there, and they have a great meteorology program there. And so I was able to start taking classes one at a time to learn the meteorology aspect of it, and since then, I mean, it's really helped the product grow.
Yeah, the news was bad, the stocks were terrible, so we just never got to them.
Right, exactly.
That's great. From a developer standpoint at WWDC, and we're obviously doing the non-disclosure with everyone that you all are under NDA for a lot of it. So what's available to us, and ask you to comment on is from the keynote. But anything that really excited you from a developer perspective, or did the announcements this year not apply to what you're doing right now?
It did. It was, of course. I mean, I think everybody was excited about the new MacBook Pros, and that was definitely something I want to look at. And actually, I mean, it was kind of timely too, because when the iPad 3 came out, I of course made Seasonality Go Retina capable with the high resolution graphics, and while I was at it, I figured, well, might as well start doing the same for Seasonality Core. So actually, the version out there will work great on the new laptop, and I was really excited to see that, because it was something where I could apply it, and the idea that all displays all across the board, and starting now in the Macs, will be the high resolution displays. And just a few years ago, it was just thought even to make a small iPhone display with that many pixels on it would be quite a difficult feat. Other things I of course that really like the iOS 6 announcements with the mapping capabilities, simply because I get to use all that functionality in the weather application, because it really is mapping is a big portion of that app. So yeah, that excited me too.
That's great. Well, sounds like then your reaction is similar to everything we've heard. Good, solid keynote, some
Yes.
things that apply to what you do, and the MacBook Pro with Retina is the thing that everyone is coveting right now.
Right.
That's just the way it's going to be, I think. But it's not a bad problem to have.
Yes.
So, what kind of pricing for the apps, and where do people go to get them?
They were both available on the app stores. Seasonality Go on the iPad App Store for $9.99, and Seasonality Core on the Mac App Store for $24.99.
Great. Mike, thanks so much for taking the time. We know that it's a busy week, and we appreciate you stopping by.
Absolutely. Appreciate your time, too.
Folks, I'm Chuck Joyner. Mac Voices is the talk of the Mac community, and we're at Apple's Worldwide Developers Conference in San Francisco. Back with more soon. Thanks for watching.
Mac Voices TV is part of the Mac Voices Group and a member of Mac Level 10.